So the first thing we're going to do is prep the motherboard and get the CPU installed. You can see we have our RAM already installed, our M.2 drive, and now it's time to install the CPU. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today on this episode of NeweggNow, I'm going to be checking out the MSI Z590-A ProSeries motherboard. This is an Intel motherboard that supports 10th and 11th gen CPUs. I did purchase it myself, and any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. Huge thanks to Newegg for sponsoring today's video, and if you're interested in this motherboard, you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. So now you can see the nice retail box and packaging right here. They walk you through a lot of the key tech specs and features of this board. Lightning Gen 4 as advertised, 2.5 gig LAN, and we have a front USB Type-C with reversible design. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and look at the contents. Here are all the package contents. First up, you can see we have a thank you card with product information. Next, we have our DVD featuring drivers and utilities. And then we also have our quick start guide right here, walking us through installation of all the different parts and components that will connect and tie into this motherboard. And they even have some nice cabling diagrams for you down here. You can find the full manual online, and I highly recommend reading that before installing and building your PC with this motherboard. Next up, you can see a couple different data cables for us. We have our parts and pieces, a couple of different screws and mounts for our M.2 drives. Again, we have 3 slots here. We also have our I/O shield and faceplate for the motherboard. Be sure to put that on before you put that on your case and get everything else built up. And last but not least, we have the motherboard itself. Let's go ahead, let's look at this in more detail. So check out the motherboard up close. First up, we have our socket. You can see everything right there, followed by our 4 DIMM slots. Be sure to follow the reference indicator on the board itself, letting you know if you're just going to install 2 sticks of RAM, which 2 slots to use first. It's going to be DIMM A2 and DIMM B2. You can see our M.2 slots as well. We have room for 3 drives on this board. And PCIe 4.0 is going to be right up here for both of these. And you can see for our first M.2 drive, we also have our nice heat sink and shield for it. Let's look at all of our I/O. We have a BIOS flashback button right there. HDMI display port if we're using integrated graphics. USB 3.0 you can see, and we have our 2.5 gig LAN, USB Type-C, all of our audio. We'll show you all different sides and angles. Pay attention up here too. We have 2 CPU power options, which is great. On this side, I want to point out USB 3.0 and USB Type-C. Look at it from this side. Here it is from that side. And now we'll flip it over to the back side as well. So check that out. You can see the back of this board. Everything looks great. Now let's go ahead, let's get it installed. So the first thing we're going to do is prep the motherboard and get the CPU installed. You can see we have our RAM already installed, our M.2 drive, and now it's time to install the CPU. So we're going to leave that cover on, and we're just going to gently open it back up like so. And we're going to take our CPU out right here. And we're going to make sure everything's lined up. We have a little tiny golden triangle right there in the bottom left-hand corner if you're reading what's on the CPU. And we have what I call a Pac-Man icon right here. So we're just going to very gently set the CPU in place like so. And now we're going to come back here with our fancy-pantsy cover. And you can see, there we go. Everything has successfully been installed right there. The cover came off just fine, and it's that simple, guys. There you go. The CPU has successfully been installed. So to get the cooler installed, you can see the first step we have to do is attach our bracket to the cooler. So you can see we got one side attached right here, and we can make adjustments depending on the socket that we're using for our build. You can adjust those between 3 different places. So repeat the same thing on the other side. Basically, we're going to take this, just gently press it in place. The holes will align. We'll take our screw, we'll drop it in there, and we'll tighten it in place. Now that that has successfully been installed, we're ready to go on to the next step, which is to line up our back bracket. Again, we have 3 different positions that will correspond and match with the positions that you have for the screws themselves. You can see clearly marked Intel for us and how everything's going to look, but I'll show you guys what we did. So we took this piece right here, we just gently dropped it in place, and then we have our bracket that lines up with it, and then we just press both together, it snaps right in, and now we can freely move that about between the 3 positions. So there's the first position, the second one, which is what we're going to use, and then the third one. And you can adjust that as desired. So now that that's completed, we can go ahead, we can line it up with our motherboard and just gently slot it through the holes. So check that out. You can see it is through the holes and ready to go. So now we're ready to take our cooler. We can peel this plastic off. Definitely do that before you apply your thermal paste. And then you can get a feel, just do a quick little dry fit. Okay, in this case, we have our fan connector coming out here. And we have our fan that's connected, showing the airflow up and in. So we're going to want it to go just like this and drop in place. So we will tighten it down just like you see here. And that's how it's going to be installed on our motherboard. So the next step is just to apply our thermal paste to our CPU. And then we're going to tighten it in place. So probably too much thermal paste still. I thought they had a nice pre-applied amount, which they should. I didn't want to use it all, though. That's going to be plenty for what we're doing. Just a pea size will be great. And now line it up on all sides. And then just very gently tighten everything in place. So there you go. You can see the cooler has successfully been installed. We did have to remove the fan to get easy access to those screws. And I want to point out, it's best to go corner to corner or in some sort of clockwise pattern or counterclockwise pattern to alleviate the pressure. Don't just tighten one corner down all the way and then go to the next one. Just do a turn or half a turn at a time and jump between them to fasten it in place. Now we can go ahead, we can clip the fan back on. Just like so. And there we go. Everything has been installed. Now we're ready to plug it in and power it on. Now it's time to get our motherboard installed on our case. So you can see we have all of our standoff brackets in the proper position thanks to this chart and key. If you're using a more traditional case, now is the time you're going to want to snap in your IO shield for your motherboard before you put your board on and in the case. Make sure at that stage too that none of the tabs or anything are misaligned or nothing is being blocked or anything along those lines. Now is the time to make those proper corrections to make sure that everything is all set and ready to go. So we'll take our board. Pay attention to, as I flip it around, you can see we have a couple of no-go zones, keep out zones right there. So make sure you have your standoff brackets lined up accordingly. And then we're just going to gently place it on. Very easy with this test bench case, as you guys can see. And once everything's lined up, we're ready to take our Phillips head screwdriver and the included Phillips head screws with our case and fasten everything in place. Now that our board's firmly fastened in place, it's time to install our power supply unit. We're going to use one of the 2 included brackets. We're just going to go ahead, we're going to take that bracket just like you see here, and we're going to place it on our power supply. So check that out. It's going to follow suit with those 4 screws. So we're going to use those 4 screws that came with our power supply and tighten the bracket in place. So there you go. You can see we have the bracket installed here. Now we're going to go ahead. We're going to slide it in place and fasten it with 4 screws. You can see right here from the bottom through to the top. And you can see the PSUs clearly marked right here for us. So that's going to be where those 2 side screws go. So our power supply is successfully installed. Now let's go ahead, before we connect all of our cables, let's take our GPU and let's get that installed as well. So we're just going to line it up and just gently press it in place. It's going to snap right in, and we can take some additional screws and fasten that securely right here. Once that's fastened down, we'll be ready to connect all of our cables. So now we have the cables all lined up and ready to go to connect to our motherboard. Let's go ahead, let's connect them and go over each connection. So the first connection we made was our HD audio connection. It only goes in one way, so pay attention to the missing pin. Next up, you can see we connected our power button. So it goes power LED plus, then minus, and then our power SW. Again, it only will go one way. You can see we have that missing pin there, so just use that as your reference point for power SW. Then we have our power LED minus and then plus at the end. Up top, we got our PCIe power for our RTX 3060. Then you can see we have USB Type-C, USB 3.0, and our main power for the board right there. Coming around to this side, you can see we have our CPU fan and we have our CPU power right there. Obviously, if we had some RGB, we could install that or additional fans. Plenty of room on this board, but you can see how everything looks now, all connected and ready to go. To mount our SSD, we're going to use the included thumb screws that came with our test bench case. And we're going to locate the SSD bracket right here, which is along the side. We're actually going to mount this diagonally up and underneath. So we're going to point our connectors down so we have easy access to get to them. So we're going to take our thumb screw. We're going to line it up on the side right here. And we're going to gently tighten in place. And then we're going to find the other hole and do the same thing. Just tighten it like you see right here. So there we go. We just successfully installed our SSD. Now let's go ahead and connect it to our motherboard. So the drive's all connected now. We have our SATA cable plugged into the SATA 1 port, and you can see the remnants right here of our power cable. We have that plugged into the drive, so everything is all set up and ready to go. So here we go. Everything's all set up and ready to go, besides some cable management if we want to do it. And this is going to be used as an actual test bench, so I'm not planning on keeping anything really tied down here. We'll be swapping out parts and components all the time. So for me, this is good enough. Now we're ready to power it on and try it out. So here we go. The PC booted up. We're in our motherboard BIOS settings right here. I'm just going to click through a bunch of different tabs so you can see all the different customization options and controls that you have. So first up, we're in easy mode. You can see our CPU speed and our RAM speed right there. I'll show you guys where you can enable your XMP profiles to change and adjust the RAM speeds accordingly. And then you can also do overclocking if that is something that you're interested in with this board. So easy mode, you can see quick access CPU. Here's our memory. Here's our storage. We have our fan info right at our fingertips and a help section. Down below, we have a lot of other options as well that you can see right here. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead. Let's select hardware monitor. I'll show you guys what we're dealing with right here. So you can see our fan options and a real-time graph showing the mode and what's going on. And our CPU core temps right here. So check that out. You can see everything in real time. And then we have our fan controls. Let's go ahead, let's exit that. Now let's go ahead, let's choose advanced or F7 and let's look at our settings right here. So we have our system status, you can see that. Then we have our advanced section, you can see all the different controls that we have. Then we have our boot section. You can adjust your boot order if you want. Then you can see we can save and exit. Next up, we have our overclocking. You may want to spend a lot of time here. So check this out. Let's just gently scroll down. You can see too, we want to enable our XMP profile, and then we can adjust the frequency and speed of our RAM right here. So you can see it's adjusted to the 3200 megahertz, which is what we want because that's what this RAM is rated for. You can manually set that as well too right here. So I'll just go ahead. Let me just select that for a second. You guys can see all the different options you have to configure depending on your RAM. Take that back up. And then we'll scroll down. So you can see a lot of different options, features that can be tweaked depending on what you're after. And then last but not least, you can see we have M flash right here. We can use USB to flash the BIOS if we want. So we have that feature right there we can use directly from within our BIOS settings. So that's a quick look at this motherboard and all the settings and features that you get. So far, so good. Everything is working just as I would expect. And I'm very pleased with the value of this board overall. It's great that we have a lot of different options to connect to with tons of headers, whether that's additional fans, RGB, and the ability to have that BIOS flashback, always very helpful. And we have a ton of customization options within the BIOS settings. Well, that concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the product link will be in our video description below. Please go ahead, check it out, and do your shopping from there. Any purchase made through that link helps support our channel at no additional cost to you. So we're really grateful and thankful for all of your support. While you're at it, can you go ahead and hit that like button for us? And subscribe to our channel. We have new content coming out daily, and we don't want you to miss anything. Please go ahead and give us a follow online and make it a clean sweep. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. You can message us on WeChat, check out our website, and join our free newsletter. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget, new content daily, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.